He thought the papers covered everything. He thought the settlement was complete, the division clear, the numbers fair. He believed honesty worked both ways. But he was wrong. Divorce isn't just about what gets divided on paper. It's about what quietly disappears before you ever see the paperwork. And the truth is brutal. Many wives know exactly where to hide money. They know which assets you won't check, which accounts you won't question, which debts you won't notice. And by the time you realize it, what you thought was safe has already been taken. Don't let this happen to you. Because if you are a man facing divorce, these are the traps no one warns you about. Subscribe now because every week we reveal the hidden money moves designed to drain you. And leave a comment if you've seen assets vanish during divorce. Your warning could save another man from losing everything. David had been married for 12 years. He worked long hours, paid the mortgage, built savings. When his wife filed for divorce, he assumed the settlement would split everything down the middle. 50-50, fair and simple. That's what he told his lawyer. But behind closed doors, his wife had already started moving pieces off the board. The first hidden money asset, joint savings, quietly drained. They had a joint account for years. Both paychecks went in, bills went out. David never worried. He assumed the balance would be divided at the end. What he didn't realize was that his wife had been withdrawing small amounts for months, $200 here, $500 there, always with an excuse, for groceries, for the kids, for car repairs. On paper, it looked normal. But when the time came to disclose balances, the account was nearly empty. Tens of thousands had disappeared, funneled into a separate account in her name. David only discovered it when he asked for old statements. He saw the pattern, steady, quiet withdrawals designed to look harmless, and the money he thought would be split fairly was gone. The second hidden money asset, household valuables. While David worked late, his wife began decluttering. Old jewelry disappeared. Designer handbags she once flaunted were suddenly gone. Even the painting they bought together after their honeymoon vanished from the living room wall. When he asked, she smiled and said, "I donated it." But months later, David saw this same painting hanging in her cousin's home. Jewelry, art, collectibles, they're easy to move, easy to hide, and hard to track. Courts divide bank accounts, houses, and cars, but unless you specifically list valuables, they vanish without a trace. By the time David realized, thousands of dollars in assets had been quietly taken from under his nose. The third hidden money asset, secret debt in his name. This was the cruelest surprise of all. David always assumed their shared credit cards were under control. He paid the bills every month, trusting that his wife's spending was reasonable. But during the months leading up to the divorce, she opened new lines of credit in his name. Shopping, vacations, emergencies he never approved. By the time the papers were filed, she had stacked over $20,000 in hidden debt, all legally his responsibility. In divorce, joint debt is often divided equally, but if the debt is in his name, the court may hold him solely responsible. David couldn't believe it. Not only had she drained their savings and hidden valuables, but she had quietly built a mountain of debt he would now have to pay. That's how it works. Hidden assets aren't just about stashing money. They're about moving, draining, disguising, until the man walks into court thinking everything is balanced, only to discover he's already lost before the fight even begins. David sat at the table, flipping through the settlement documents, confused. Why is the savings balance so low? Where's the jewelry? What is this credit card account? His lawyer shook his head. If it's not listed, it's hard to prove. And if the debt is in your name, you're stuck. David realized too late that honesty doesn't protect you in divorce. Awareness does. And without it, every hidden move becomes another cut, another dollar lost, another right destroyed. 3 hidden assets were already gone, but what David didn't know was that the most devastating ones weren't even on the table yet. Because hidden deeper, and accounts he never thought to question, were the assets that would truly cripple him. The fourth and fifth, the ones wives take silently, cleverly, permanently, would hit harder than anything he had seen so far. And once they were gone, there would be no back.
David thought he had seen it all. The drained savings account, the valuables that quietly disappeared, the mountain of debt built in his name. He felt hollow, but he told himself, at least that's the worst of it. At least now it's over. But divorce doesn't just strip away what's obvious. The deepest cuts are always the ones you never think to check. And what David didn't know was that 2 more hidden assets were waiting for him, ones that would leave scars for years. The 4th hidden money asset, children's savings accounts. It sounded untouchable, safe. Every birthday check from grandparents, every Christmas gift from uncles and aunts, every dollar meant for his kids' future went into those accounts. David believed the money was theirs, protected for education, for stability, for adulthood. What he didn't know was that his wife had full access. Legally, as the custodial parent, she could withdraw funds, and she did. When the divorce settlement listed the accounts, they were nearly empty. Thousands of dollars gone. She told the court she had used it for household expenses, groceries, rent, bills. The judge didn't argue. And just like that, money meant for the kids' future vanished into the past. David sat in silence when he learned the truth. He had imagined those accounts funding college, first cars, opportunities. Instead, they became survival money during a divorce battle, drained without a trace, and gone forever. The 5th hidden money asset, retirement accounts, quietly shifted. This was the final blow. David had worked his entire adult life to build a retirement fund. Contributions came straight from his paycheck, automatic and consistent. He assumed it was untouchable, that nothing could happen to it until the settlement divided it. But while he focused on paying bills and legal fees, his wife had already borrowed against the account. Retirement funds allow loans, withdrawals, hardship distributions. She applied, claimed household hardship, and pulled out tens of thousands before the divorce was finalized. By the time the court reviewed the accounts, the balance was far lower than it should have been. David asked his lawyer, "How is this possible? Isn't that illegal?" His lawyer shook his head. "It's not illegal, it's unfortunate, and unless we can prove fraud, the money is gone." That's how it works. Retirement accounts, meant to secure your future, can be quietly dismantled before division. By the time you sit down at the table, what you thought was half of a nest egg is nothing but scraps. David realized then that divorce wasn't just about splitting assets. It was about losing them before the split even happened. His wife hadn't just drained savings, hidden valuables, and stacked debt. She had raided accounts for their children and their retirement. She hadn't waited for the settlement. She had prepared her exit months in advance, and he had walked right into it blind. The cruel truth? Courts don't always see these moves as theft. They see them as marital expenses. They see them as temporary hardship. They see them as survival. And so men like David lose not just money, but the very systems they trusted to protect them. 5 hidden money assets, 5 traps that wives secretly take after divorce. Joint savings drained, household valuables hidden, debt built in his name, children's accounts emptied, retirement funds raided. Each one small enough to miss. Together, devastating enough to destroy a future. And this isn't rare. It happens every day. Men assume honesty will protect them. They assume fairness is the rule. They assume what isn't written can't be touched. But divorce is a battlefield disguised as paperwork. And in that battlefield, silence costs more than anything else. David signed his settlement, exhausted, broken, poorer than he ever imagined. But his story isn't just his. It's the warning every father, every husband, every man must hear. So if you're watching this now, hear me clearly. Don't assume everything is safe. Don't assume accounts, valuables, or debts will stay where they are. Don't assume the system will protect you. Question everything. Verify everything. Protect everything. Because once it's gone forever. Subscribe to this channel. Every week, we reveal the traps that drain men after divorce.
Leave a comment if you've seen assets disappear in silence. Your story could be the warning that saves another man's future. And share this video, because no one should walk into divorce blind. Remember David. Remember the drained savings, the missing valuables, the crushing debt, the empty children's accounts, the gutted retirement. Remember how he thought fairness would protect him, until he realized fairness was just another illusion. Don't let the same traps destroy you. Don't let silence cost you everything. And above all, don't assume what's yours will stay yours.